got married when we were 17, had Mark when we were 18, and Richard when we were 19, and we knew full well that although we would pay the cost of not being able to have what most people have at 17, we knew that we would have a better life when we got older, and that's worked out to be true. Our first son Mark was born with a medical condition called spina bifida. This meant that he was paralysed from the waist down and spent the whole of his life confined to a wheelchair. A friend of mine came round, knocked on the door and said, "Look, I'm thinking of starting a building firm. Would you like to come into business with me?" I said, "Well, I'm not a builder, I know nothing about building. Yes, I'm quite happy to start, as long as you realise I'm not going to be any good as a builder." So we started a building firm called Opaline Homes in 1982, which amazingly was very successful. But I knew that it wasn't going to be my life. I was not cut out to be a builder for the rest of my life. But I was happy. It was a nice environment, we had a good set of people. Sue had recently qualified as a nurse and had watched her nana die in a council-owned residential home and said never again would she allow a loved one to die in such surroundings. She said, "Why don't you look at opening up an old folks care home?" So I went to my partner, because I was in partnership with someone in the building firm, and said, "Why don't we look at opening up an old folks home?" And he then went out, looked at buildings and came back and said, "I found one." To get the garden house, we didn't have any money. So the bank said, "Yeah, we'll lend you the money, but in return, we're taking a charge on your house and your partner's house, which means that if the old folks home had failed, we would have been homeless." So we opened this old folks home up. I think we started off with 18 people, and I think we increased it to something like 30 people. So I had to stop working at the building firm and go and take over running the residential homes, which I absolutely loved. It was like a duck to water to me. I adored every second of it. And we had a whale of a time in the garden house. It was a time of fun and laughter. And in 2003 we actually sold the home, which we were extremely lucky. We sold it for around about £1 million, yeah. And so we got the money for that. So that was our retirement money, and that set us up for retirement. But then in 2012 Mark died, which was not unexpected, because we'd spent 44 years basically knowing that he didn't have a very long life. But in 2012 he died of cancer, which was hugely unexpected. Our life had been a real rags to riches story. I was brought up in a council house with absolutely no expectations of life, work or career, and somehow here we are 75 years later with a happy and fulfilled retirement. We've been very, very lucky.